Hello, I'm Jim, and welcome to Rallying in America, the Recce podcast. This podcast is an exploration of a rich history, the stories and memories of those who made and make Rallying in America so great. Enjoy the show. This week's guest is Rafael Ruiz of Subie You podcast. Subie You is the ultimate Subaru lovers podcast. On his show, Rafael shares the stories and experiences of Subaru enthusiasts and brands within the Subaru community. Rafael talks about how the podcast started and has evolved into a well-produced, interesting listen. We chat about his rally guests that have included Rhianon Gelsomino, Travis Pastrana, Bucky Lasek, Ethan Curtis, and Lance Smith. He has created over 200 episodes in his journey and offers his podcasting advice. We even talk about breakfast foods. Rafael, thanks for coming on to the podcast. Really appreciate it. Appreciate your time today.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
So you do the Subie You podcast. Tell us where you're from.
I am from Houston, and I've pretty much been here my whole life. So I've lived in Arkansas for about a year and a half, and then other than that, I've been here my whole life.
Okay. So what is your background? What do you do for work? Or
Actually, right now, I'm currently unemployed.
Sorry to hear that.
Yeah, I got laid off from a job. I was working as a project manager for a small architectural and engineering firm. So I went to school for drafting. So I've mostly been doing like drafting, planning, things like that. And I worked for a transportation engineering firm for a little over 20 years, designing maintenance facilities for transit agencies. And, there's a lot of work that was involved with it, and did a lot of different things there. But for the most part, yeah, I've been doing that most of my career. And now that I'm laid off, I'm exploring other things and trying to get into doing other stuff. So see where that goes.
Yeah, very nice.
Yeah.
So, have you always owned Subarus, or what's your car history look like?
No, so actually my very first car was a 69 Ford Fairlane with a straight six. And that was a pretty fun car.
Yeah.
Until it like blew a rod or something, and I had to get rid of it. And then I had a Ford Ranger after that, a 1990 Ford Ranger, then a 97 Ford Ranger, then a Dodge Neon, and then a Kia Forte, and then now I'm in my first Subaru, which is a 2021 Subaru Crosstrek.
Oh, okay.
And a 6-speed manual, which I really like.
Okay, cool.
Yeah. Unfortunately, it's in the shop because I got rear-ended a couple of weekends ago, and having to fix it. Yeah, but thankfully it wasn't totaled out, so I'm gonna get it back.
Oh, that's good. Is it heavily modified or slightly modified, or?
Yeah,
still
it's slightly modified.
Slightly.
Yeah. So one thing I don't have on it that I know a lot of other people have, especially in the off-road community, is I don't have a lift. But I do have aftermarket wheels and tires. I have a full set of skid plates. I have a rooftop rack and an awning with my tire on top of the rack. I have fog lights because mine was a base model, so it just had the little plastic inserts.
Oh, right, yeah.
So I've got fog lights, ditch lights, custom shift knob, and then a bunch of decals. So not heavily modified, but definitely not stock.
Oh, okay.
Kind of have it set up the way I like it. I mean, the only other thing that I would really like to get at some point is a lift, but where I live, I don't need one.
Oh, okay. Nice.
Yeah. Nothing crazy around here.
Yeah, I have a friend who has a lift, so that's come in handy quite a few times.
Yeah.
I actually had to put a water pump and a timing belt on my on a Baja I owned a couple years ago, 2003. It's given to me. A friend of mine said that the head gasket was gone. I said, well, I'm not driving. I'll use it as a daily. I don't know that it's the. I thought to myself, I don't know if it's the head gasket or not, because
Yeah.
the overflow for the radiator was yellow. It was
Mm.
caked. So I thought, well,
Ew.
maybe the radiator's corroded and clogged.
Yeah.
Sure enough, it was. Changed out the radiator, ran great for a couple of years, and then I noticed, things leaking around the head gaskets and that. So I thought, well, I've never done it before. I'm going to go ahead and try it. Did it all myself. I pulled the engine by
Nice.
myself, and
Wow.
you know, um, ground down the head and got it all together, and started right up. And I was in
Nice.
shock, like, holy cow, something I've done. And then a freak thing happened where it's called a Woodruff key, and I guess one of the cams or something broke and threw all the valves.
Oh
So
man, that sucks.
after all that work,
Yeah. Had
so
you done work like that before on another car?
I've never done head gaskets, but I've kind of tinkered with cars.
Okay.
Restoring a couple of cars or attempting to. So I haven't done anything to that extent. So yeah, that was my first experience.
Yeah, that's good.
So I sold it to a mechanic friend of mine, and he's just going to drop a new engine in it and
Oh,
go from
yeah.
there. So
Probably the better thing to do and easier thing to do if you can.
yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
So when did you decide to do a podcast?
So this is actually my second podcast. I did a podcast previous to this,
Mm-hmm.
and so when I had the idea to do this podcast, I already had all the equipment, and I pretty much
Okay.
had everything I needed to do. So I, when I bought my car, started an Instagram page for it, and then I started connecting with people, and I was seeing that people were posting their mods and posting photos and
Mm-hmm.
writing a little caption about like where they had gone, but I was wondering if people might be more interested in talking more about their Subarus and their journeys.
Right.
So that's where the idea came from. And then I just started reaching out to people and kind of, people that I had connected with and asking them what they thought and trying to get some guests lined up and then
Mm-hmm.
started. And I released my first episode on Monday, January 4th of 2021.
Oh, okay. So is that during the pandemic? I'm trying to remember the dates.
Yeah, pretty much because they started shutting things down in March of 2020 and this was in January of 2021.
Oh, okay.
So and it wasn't necessarily like, oh, I want to start this pandemic project because I don't have anything else going on. Because
Right, right.
as I mentioned, I was already doing the other podcast and I wasn't, buying this Subaru was my kind of my first introduction into Subaru because I didn't
Okay.
grow up like a Subaru fan. I didn't have Subarus in the family because I have a lot of people on the podcast that are like, oh yeah, my grandma had an old Outback and my dad had this and my mom had that and
Yeah.
they grew up around Subarus and I didn't, so I didn't really know a whole lot about them.
Okay. Yeah. Kind of same for me. My dad was not a car guy, so he'd come home with a new car, and it just wasn't a cool car. He'd come home. Growing up in the
Yeah.
'80s, he'd come home with like a Chevy Citation,
Yeah.
and be like, "Oh, what is this?" So, did your family were into cars at all, or motorsports of any kind?
Not really, and both of my parents are handicapped, so it
Okay.
was, the driving, thankfully they were able to drive. My dad did have a 1985 Camaro, so that was kind of cool.
Oh, wow, nice.
Yeah, so that was like the coolest car I think we ever had.
Okay.
And so that was fun for a while. But yeah, but I was so young that I never got to drive it. By the time I turned 16, he had gotten rid of it because it had kind of fallen apart and stuff. But
Okay. So
yeah, I
when
never got to experience that.
yeah. So when you got into podcasting, do you feel like you're a natural at it, or is it something you struggle with?
I mean, when I first started, I kind of thought about things that like so the first podcast I started was a vegan themed podcast because I'm vegan, and
Mm-hmm.
I would go to these like big events, and they would have all these vegan food vendors, and I was thinking like, you know, people wait in these long lines to get this food, and we love this food,
Yeah.
but how much do we know about the people behind the food, behind the brand? And so that was my thought process of like trying to find these small little pop-ups and stuff and restaurants and stores and everything that were uh, showing up at these events
Mm-hmm.
and trying to get the story behind, why they started it because most people don't start off vegan, they end up going vegan. And then obviously these people had this great passion for what they were doing and then decided to start a business. So I was just trying to think of it as like a consumer and wanting to
Mm.
know more about the business and the brand. And so I guess I could say that I was somewhat a natural at it just because I was, thinking of all these questions of what other people might want to know about the
Mm.
people and the brand and their story. And then I just kind of took that over to doing my podcast, the Subie You podcast.
Okay.
And I feel like it's been, I've been doing a pretty good job with it. I don't have any kind of journalism background or anything like that.
Oh, okay. So you're over 200 episodes in for Subi and you. What, somewhere around 216 or so, I think, is what
Yeah.
I saw
Yeah.
last.
Yeah.
That's and you do it bi-weekly?
Yeah. I started off the first 3.5 years. I did a guest episode every Monday. And then after that, it was like between my full-time job and then just trying to take care of myself, do things for me
Mm-hmm.
and spending time with family and friends and stuff. And then being in a long distance relationship, I was like, I think I need to scale back some and just do it every other week. So I started doing that back in, I think like July of 2024.
Mm-hmm.
But so I would be further in with more episodes if I hadn't done that.
Yeah, I'm doing it weekly, and it's a little crazy sometimes. It's hard to be consistent, actually. So
Yeah.
that's key. But
Yeah, and for a while too, I was doing what I call the Subi Scoop, where I was doing like I was taking like Subaru news from their U.S. media center, and then I was also like, especially around the holidays, if there were groups that were doing, fundraising events like toy drives and stuff like
mm-hmm.
that, and then there were some groups that were doing trail meetups and cars and coffee, and so I was announcing that. So I was doing an episode on Monday and then the Subi Scoop on Wednesday, and I did that
Oh
for
wow.
probably a year or so.
Okay.
And then, yeah, and then I look back now and I'm like, how did I do all that? 'Cause that's a lot.
Oh yeah. So do you have any advice for someone who's starting? Like I'm only 40 45 episodes in, so I still feel like I'm still you know a baby at this. So do you have any advice?
Yeah, and I think like if somebody's just wanting to start a podcast, like they haven't done anything yet,
Mm-hmm.
I think one of the biggest keys is to first find your audience, find your topics, and then be consistent with that topic. Because you don't want to be all over the place with a lot of different things, because then I
Mm-hmm.
think you probably end up losing people. But, you and I have a pretty good topic, to talk about. We have a
Yeah.
good path on that. But I think like also figuring out what a feasible schedule is going to be for you. Like you're doing it every week. I was doing it every week.
Mm-hmm.
And I did it every week just because I already had a lineup of guests. And so I knew I could,
Yeah.
but I also wanted it to be pretty consistent like that. So whether you do it every week, every other week, or once a month, I think the biggest key is to be consistent, pick a day, and then always release on that day. Because once you start building an audience and enough
Mm-hmm.
people start listening to it, they're not gonna be like waiting to see what the next episode is. They're already gonna know that there's gonna be an episode coming out. And they're like, and if they really enjoy the podcast, they're gonna start listening to it as soon as it gets released on that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So that's my first bit of advice. And then, you know, if it's a podcast, because a lot of people do a solo podcast or a podcast with a co-host and they just talk about stuff. Not
Yeah.
every podcast has a guest. So if you're starting a podcast where you're having guests, make sure you've got a good lineup of guests and make sure that you can continually work with them. And then if you're doing it weekly, try to like do some batch episodes where you're recording, 2 or 3 ahead of time. So you've already got them ready to go. You can
Right.
edit them. Because I found not very often, but a few times where I had scheduled with somebody and I was only doing it like during the, once a week, that person might cancel for some reason, or
Right.
you might have to cancel for some reason. And then if you don't have an episode ready to release the next Monday, if you let your audience know, they're probably not going to be mad at you, but it's more like, oh, I can't believe this is happening and everything's over.
Yeah.
The world is ending. But usually if you have a good audience, they're going to be sympathetic and understanding. But if you can get, at least 2 episodes, sometimes 3 batch recorded, then that really helps.
Okay, great.
Yeah.
Yeah, I definitely have to work on the consistency aspect of it, but
Yeah, it can be tough, but again, batch recording definitely helps out.
okay, cool. We'll be right back. Power up your ride. Daily driver, bike, or track beast with Melee Design Firm. Since 2018, Melee has been the go-to source for high-performance battery mounts and power solutions trusted by enthusiasts and professionals alike. Whether you're carving corners on the weekend, commuting to work, or chasing podiums, they have the gear to keep you powered and ready. Their lightweight universal battery mounts are engineered for performance, crafted with precision, and designed to handle whatever you throw their way. They don't just make and sell parts, they build confidence under the hood. Rugged, industrial, functional. That's the Melee difference. Join thousands of satisfied drivers who refuse to settle for stock. Upgrade your battery game today. Now back to the show. Of all the podcasts that you've, done, any stand out?
Yeah, I mean, I guess I would have to say, as far as like my biggest accomplishment was getting Travis Pastrana on the podcast.
Oh, yeah.
And, and I mean, it's not like because like I'm anybody special or anything. It's just knowing the right people and making the right connections. And the other thing too is timing, because it was after his hip surgery. So he was at home recovering. And
you're right.
so it worked out well for him in the fact that he wasn't, because when when he's not going through surgery or recovering, he's just going. He's always so busy. So it was almost a year that I recorded with him, because I recorded it with him in December of 2024.
Okay.
Yeah. So as far as like favorite episode, my favorite episode is still with Mitch from Melee Design Firm.
Oh, cool.
Mainly because like, once I was doing the podcast for a while and was thinking like, is this something that I could potentially do full time? Although it's very hard being so niche and being within the Subaru community, it's not that feasible. But just Mitch's story of what he did as far as like starting off trying to do these battery boxes. When I recorded with him, he said he went to this one company that he wanted to work with to try to get these produced, and they said no, we don't think it's a good idea. So he said like it pissed me off so much that I went home that night and started my own business.
Right.
So, and then now, he's been doing this for a while, and then he's got his media company, and he's out there. He works a lot, and it hasn't been easy, but he's doing what he wants to do.
Yeah.
And so that persistence and him just kind of chasing that dream is like, I was just like, man, this is so cool. Cause like, that's what I think a lot of people would really like to do, is find something that they're passionate about that they can end up turning into a brand and a business and be their own boss and do their own thing and go out there and make it happen.
Yeah. It's very inspiring. Yeah. His story. It's very, very cool.
Yep.
And as we said before we started, Mitch is a great guy. So we're not just saying that.
Yeah. So. Yeah. And I had told you too before we started recording that I finally got a chance to meet him
Hmm.
at Overland Expo in Oregon, and that was like such a cool experience because I've been wanting to meet him for years. So
Yeah.
very thankful for that.
Yeah. Great. Yeah. Hopefully, I'll be able to meet him this coming year.
Yeah, that'd be good.
Do you do the podcast all by yourself, or do you have anyone that lends a hand
No,
with
it's
editing or?
nope, it's all me. And it's funny because I will message somebody or somebody will message me and they'll say, you guys, and I just kind of laugh because I'm like, you guys is me. Like I've had some people help me with like the the logo and things like that and giving recommendations on guests and
Hmm.
some questions and things like that. But as far as producing the podcast, it's all me. The only other thing that is not me is my outro credits. That was done by this guy, another guy named Jim. He goes by Little Ruby Subie on Instagram.
Oh, okay, cool.
But he did his own intro to his podcast or to his episode. And then I was listening to another podcast that I was listening to at one point, like a highly produced podcast, because at the
Hmm.
end, produced by this and person and edited by that person and all this stuff. And I'm like, man, there's like all these people involved. So the people that are recording and interviewing, they're not doing any work. They just show up to record.
Right.
And so I reached out to him and I was like, hey, can you do like a custom intro or outro for the podcast where, produced by Raphael and edited by Raphael
Yeah,
and
I do
kind
like
of stuff.
that.
Yeah, so he did. And so that was kind of cool and funny. So now like that's the only part of the podcast that's not me.
Hmm.
Yeah. And then the music, I use music that my son had put together during the pandemic because I think he was just bored. He didn't do the music for the podcast because I wasn't even doing the podcast at the time that he made the music.
Yeah.
But he sent me like all the files because I was like, man, this is really cool what you're doing on this keyboard. Like I love these songs and everything. And so I ended up using those for my podcast.
Okay, nice.
Yeah.
So you've had a lot of, well, I wouldn't say a lot of rally guests, but you've had a handful of rally guests on. You mentioned Travis Pastrana.
Yeah.
You have Rhianon Gelsomino,
Yep.
Ethan Curtis, and Lance Smith, I
Lance
believe.
Smith,
Yeah.
yeah, and then Stephen Red, and then also Bucky Lasek, which he's done a little bit of rally, but
Yeah.
he's done more rally cross.
Hmm.
So yeah, it's been cool to have those people on because I know there's a lot of people that grew up watching rally, and I didn't grow up watching rally, didn't really know anything about it, and still don't know a whole lot about it. I mean,
Hmm.
I understand like how it works and everything, especially the stage rally and stuff like that. From talking to Rhiannon, having Travis on, and Stephen Red and Curtis, and watching Launch Control and having those guys on. But
Hmm.
that's kind of really my only exposure to it. And but I mean, I feel very blessed and thankful because I know a lot of the people that I have listening to the podcast follow
Hmm.
rally
Yeah.
and they really enjoy it. So to get some people who are involved in stage rally on the podcast has been really cool because I mean, the podcast has really been more for the community.
Hmm.
I enjoy doing it, of course,
Yeah.
but it's always been, by the community, for the community, about the community.
Hmm.
And I'm just kind of like the messenger in a way, the middleman of like
Yeah.
getting these people on, having them be able to share their stories, and then having other people listen to it.
Yeah. So have you kind of thought maybe I should try rallying or co-driving or
Uh,
even building a car?
I mean, it's not really crossed my mind because I still don't know enough about it to be able to do something like that. I also, because of where I live,
Hmm.
the closest rally spot is at Rally Ready, which is like 2.5 hours away.
Hmm.
Uh, so it's just and like I've never really followed any sport or any athlete my entire life. I mean, I know there's people that follow athletes and follow sports and and like that's kind of like a big part of their life and
Hmm.
for me it's just never really been anything that I've like dug really deep into.
Yeah.
So uh and because like my funny story with Bucky Lasek is when I first met him,
Mm-hmm.
all I remembered of him was that he skated at X Games, because I used to watch X Games when
Yeah.
it would be on. And I remember seeing him skating at X Games. And that was pretty much all I knew about him when I met him because I met him at Boxerfest in 2021. And it wasn't until afterwards and I started learning more about him and what
Yeah.
he's done and seeing stuff, some of his episodes on Launch Control and just talking to him and then going like, okay, yeah, Bucky is like a really big deal.
Oh yeah.
And but I didn't follow his career like early on when he was skating and like same with Travis, he's not somebody that I've followed his career, the whole time. I remember seeing him do the double backflip though at X Games and I was
Oh
like,
wow.
man,
Yeah.
that is super cool. And so that was, little moments like that where I caught these athletes doing things, but not anything where I was like really following their career.
Mm-hmm.
So to build one, it's not something, I'm not saying I would never have any interest in doing it, but
Yeah.
right now I don't. And I know there's money involved too, and
Oh yeah.
that's kind of an issue as well. So I know it's not a cheap sport.
Yeah, I would imagine having to travel from Texas to get to the nearest rally would be quite expensive. I
Yeah.
mean, you've got Arizona and probably Kentucky, but they seem pretty far away from where you're at. Yeah, even going
Yeah.
up to Michigan would be quite the haul. So
Yeah. It seems like, and I'm again not knowing a ton about rally and the
yeah,
community and everything, but it seems like for the people that are like really, really involved with it and these like grassroots drivers and co-drivers and stuff, that they probably live in at least a somewhat, relative close distance or
right.
from, rally stages.
Mm-hmm. So
Or
hypothetically,
proximity.
I'm sorry.
Proximity. That's what I was saying.
Proximity. Yeah, that's right. Proximity. Location, location, location.
Yeah.
As sometimes they say. So, hypothetically, if you were to make a rally car, what Subaru would you pick? Would it be something obvious that like what Travis is running now, or what do you think would make a great rally car out of the Subaru lineup?
I think it'd be cool to see not a Baja, a Brat as a rally car, and maybe some people have,
Yeah.
but I think more on the higher end, like what Travis is driving,
Yeah.
or the open class. I think that'd be kind of cool to see a Brat doing that. I mean, you've got easy access to tires in the back if you need it.
Right. Oh, right. Just like a trophy truck or something, You
Yeah,
could easily put your tools and everything in the back. That'd be great.
yeah. I think it'd be cool to see one, that high with that much power going down the rally stages like that.
Yeah. That would be fun to watch.
Yeah.
Now, I have a neighbor, Matt, who also does a podcast called Gearbusters, and he has a Subaru Vivio that he's turning into a rally car, at least to, I think, rallycross, and then hopefully get out to snowdrift. So it's like the Justy, similar to the Justy, but
gotcha.
it's not very common here in the U.S., from what I understand.
Okay. Yeah,
So,
I haven't heard of that.
yeah, it's called the Vivio. Little tiny thing, just like the Justy. And yeah, that should be fun to watch. When he gets that running.
I have seen a Justy when I went out for 48 hours of Tri-State. There was a guy, he and his son, I think his dad had an Ascent maybe, and his son had bought the Justy. And it was kind of cool because somebody introduced me to them because they're actually from Houston, which is where I'm from. And so I meet these people from Houston up in New Jersey, and he was doing pretty good in the Justy. I mean, he was keeping up, but there were times where he was lagging behind, and he had to fill up more often than everybody else. But it was a pretty cool little car.
Yeah. So you mentioned the Brat. Now the Brat's been becoming more and more popular. Especially, Bucky Lasek has one that he's been working on. Travis Pastrana has one, I think, that was put on like a Corvette chassis, but now he has the Gymkhana car that was built by Vermont Sports Car. So there's a
And
lot of love for the brat, deservedly so. I mean,
yeah,
I grew up in the 80s and I thought, man, that's the coolest thing. Sit in the back and hang on to the
yeah.
handlebars, and ride around. But is there a Subaru that you think deserves that kind of love that's kind of being ignored?
I was thinking about that earlier. As far as like the off-road scene, which is kind of more, what I'm into and
Yeah,
and my audience and the people that I've connected with. You have all these really built up cross treks and outbacks and
yeah.
Foresters, even some like WRXs and stuff. But there's not a whole lot of Ascents out there that have some crazy builds.
Oh, okay.
I have a friend that has an Ascent that has a lift, and they've got wheels and tires and a roof rack and awning and stuff, and it's pretty nice. But some of the Crosstrek and Forester and Outback builds are just like extreme,
Yeah.
and it's like crazy, crazy builds. But I've never seen like a crazy, crazy built out Ascent. And
Hmm.
I think it might be just because it's so big and there's probably not as many parts available for them.
Okay.
But I think that would be kind of cool to see.
Yeah, nice.
But also even like an Ascent in the tuner scene, somebody do something cool with that.
Okay, yeah, that'd be fun to see. You like asking your guests whether they prefer waffles or pancakes.
Yep.
First tell us how did that get started?
So there's a girl that's been on the podcast. Her name is Sierra. She goes by SLT Trek. And I think it was in a Discord chat one night or something that she started asking everybody whether they prefer waffles or pancakes.
Mm.
And so I think she may have suggested you should start asking your guests that question. And so she is where it came from.
Okay.
And so I started that. I think it's been going on for like a year now, maybe. But I've been asking every single guest that question,
Yeah.
and so it's been a lot of fun and just something to kind of get started and break the ice and everything. Especially because there's some people that get on the podcast and they're a little bit nervous, so
Yeah.
kind of something fun to start off with. But yeah, that's where that came from.
Yeah, because I remember the conversation you had with Travis, and you
Yeah,
guys talked about chicken and waffles and pancakes and waffles,
yeah,
and
interesting.
you said you'd like the pancakes that get a little crispy around the edges.
Oh yeah. What are
So
you?
I tend to lean towards waffles.
That's good. Yeah,
I don't like putting berries and stuff on top of the pancakes and have them roll off. I
yeah,
like all the nooks and crannies that, berries and stuff. I'm a big maple syrup fan, so my maple syrup will stay
yeah.
put and not run off onto the side, kind of
Oh yeah,
even
that's
distribution kind of thing.
yeah, definitely good points. I mean, waffles are really good for that, for
Yeah,
sure.
yeah, definitely.
Yep.
So I'm more of a cereal guy. I grew up visiting my cousin a lot, and we would eat. Uh, During the summer, I would go visit him, and we would probably put away a good box and a half of cereal easily, and go through a whole gallon of milk.
Yeah.
So my question for you is: when you have cereal and there's a good amount of milk left in the bowl, do you just drink the milk, or do you add more cereal?
Oh, I add more cereal.
Oh, cool.
When I was a kid, I used to drink the milk.
Yeah.
But now, as an adult, I add more cereal. And I
Oh,
might even add a little bit more cereal and a little bit more milk.
you're right. I do the same. I'm like,
Yeah.
oh, what am I doing? I'm kind of wasting this milk. So
No, I love
why not
cereal.
just
I
add some
grew up
more
eating
cereal?
cereal too.
Yeah. Well,
It's
that's
great.
good.
Yeah.
Very good. Cool. Well, I really appreciate your time today, coming on
Yeah.
to the podcast and chatting a little bit and getting to know
Appreciate you
you
having
and
me.
get the word out about Subie and You podcast with some of my listeners. And I
Thank you. I
think they would
appreciate
enjoy
that.
listening to you. And, because, yeah, the majority of people I've spoken with have Subarus and they race Subarus, and
Hmm.
some daily drivers are Subarus. And so, yeah, I think they'll find it interesting. Really appreciate it.
Yeah, you're welcome. Yeah, it's a great community, and you find all sorts of different people out there that just love Subarus and love the community and love to talk about it.
Yeah, I'll have to get another Subaru. I have to get another Baja again. So
Yeah, Baja would be very cool.
all right, take care.
You
Rafael,
too.
thanks again and enjoy your weekend.
You're welcome. Thank you. Enjoy your weekend as
All right,
well.
take care. Bye. If you'd like to be on the podcast, you can email me, jim@jimboothdesigns.com, or message me through Facebook at Rallying in America, the Recce Podcast, or Instagram, rallying_in_America. Special thanks to Brady Instruments, pro-grade, handmade, professional fuel hydrometers. Visit bradyinstruments.com for all of your fuel testing needs. Thanks to Toontank and the artist Nuclear Wave for the podcast theme music.